Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at a monument you'd probably recognize instantly, no matter where you are in the world. But here's the thing. Its origins are actually rooted in a few frantic, totally heartbreaking days. We're going to dive right into the deeply moving history, the almost impossible engineering, and the lasting symbolism of John F. Kennedy's final resting place, the Eternal Flame. This isn't just some story about a stone memorial. It's really about how an entire nation processed just unimaginable grief, and how one brilliant act of foresight created a permanent beacon of hope. Let's get into it. November 22nd, 1963. Man, that date alone carries so much weight, doesn't it? When the assassination happened in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, it didn't just end a presidency. It plunged the whole country into this overwhelming sudden state of shock. It was literally one of those moments that stopped time for millions of Americans. It created this huge, immediate need for mourning, but also a desperate need for direction. And what is truly staggering about all of this is the sheer compression of time. Just think about this timeline for a second. You have the sudden tragedy on November 22nd, then an emergency request for a memorial flame on the 24th, and by the 25th, a full-scaled, globally televised state funeral. The logistical and emotional mountain that they had to climb in just 72 hours is absolutely wild. Decisions that would normally take months, even years of planning, they had to be made in minutes. So that brings us to a really crucial immediate dilemma. Where do you lay a tragically slain president to rest? Well, initially, everyone just assumed JFK would be buried in his home state of Massachusetts. The Kennedy family plot was up there, it was his home, and traditionally, it made perfect sense. But this assumption sparks a fascinating question about where a historical legacy truly lives. Does it belong with a family, or does it belong to the country? It was First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy who made this brilliant, intuitive pivot from private grief to public legacy. Right in the middle of her own profound devastation, she famously declared that JFK belongs to the people, not to any one state. She said his final resting place should be accessible to the entire nation. It's pretty amazing, really. She had this remarkable clarity to recognize her husband's place in history. She understood that the nation needed a place to grieve just as badly as she did. So instead of that private Massachusetts family plot, she deliberately chose a serene, sloping hillside at Arlington National Cemetery down in Virginia. And this wasn't just a random pick. This specific spot offered a direct, breathtaking view right across the Potomac River toward the Lincoln Memorial. Coincidentally, and honestly, rather poetically, President Kennedy himself had actually visited that exact hillside just a few months prior. He remarked on its peaceful beauty, even saying he could stay there forever. Now, just one day before the funeral, Jackie Kennedy envisioned something else for the site, an eternal flame. She didn't want just a cold stone monument. She wanted a continuous, living light to act as a beacon. The whole idea was to represent his enduring spirit, the unfinished work of his administration, and of course, the vibrant hope he had brought to a whole generation of Americans. But okay, here is where our story shifts from emotional resonance to an absolute engineering scramble. Arlington officials had never built an eternal flame before, and military engineers suddenly found themselves facing an impossible constraint. They had exactly 24 hours to pull off an overnight miracle before the funeral began and the eyes of the entire world turned to that hillside. Literally 24 hours. To pull this off, the Army Corps of Engineers worked frantically through the night. The pressure must have been intense. To make Jackie's vision a reality, they ingeniously jury-rigged a temporary gas line, running it all the way up the hill. And the burner itself? You're not going to believe this. They actually built a functional flame mechanism out of a modified camp stove. It is just a stunning example of quick thinking and dedication under the most intense pressure imaginable. Which brings us to November 25th, 1963. Picture this scene. A solemn state funeral, watched by millions upon millions of people on TVs all around the world. Jackie Kennedy, veiled in black, is handed a torch. Standing right beside JFK's brothers, Robert and Ted, she walks up that carefully chosen hillside. And, with that modified camp stove burner waiting just beneath the earth, she lights the flame. And as the fire caught, it did exactly what Jackie had hoped. It provided this immediate, powerful moment of catharsis for a deeply grieving nation. The visual impact of it was just undeniable. It proved, in a way words really couldn't, that even in the absolute darkest moments of tragedy, a light would remain. It gave the whole country a much-needed focal point for their sorrow and their hope. Now, a temporary camp stove wasn't going to last forever, right? So by 1967, 4 years after the assassination, the temporary setup was finally replaced. They upgraded it to a highly advanced, permanent mechanical system that was designed for total resilience against nature. This flame had to endure everything the harsh Virginia weather could throw at it, literally braving the storms to live up to the name Eternal. The engineering behind this permanent upgrade is actually elegantly simple but incredibly effective. Basically, a constantly sparking igniter is positioned right near the burner. Because of this little spark, if heavy rains, a massive blizzard, or violent winds temporarily blow the flame out, the system automatically reignites it within seconds. It's like a mechanical guarantee that the symbol of hope will never truly die out. Though, despite all this brilliant engineering, the flame actually has gone out a couple of times. In one particularly surprising instance, it was accidentally extinguished by a group of visiting school children who were playfully spraying it with water bottles. Luckily, the backup system worked and the flame was instantly relit. It just goes to show you that even the most solemn historical sites are still part of the unpredictable, everyday human world. Today, the site stands as a beautifully finalized tribute. The Eternal Flame is now surrounded by a circular base of rough-hewn Cape Cod granite stones, which is a really nice nod to his Massachusetts roots. It marks the peaceful resting place not just of the president, but of Jackie, who passed away in 1994, and 2 of their infant children who tragically died before his presidency. Millions of people from all over the world walk up that quiet Arlington Hill every single year just to pay their respects. And as they stand there watching that flame flicker against the stone, they're reminded of the legacy he left behind. Decades later, that continuous light ensures we never forget his most famous, enduring challenge to the world. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. The flame really keeps that call to service alive for every new generation that visits. So, we've seen how a frantic 24-hour engineering sprint, born out of immense tragedy, created a lasting symbol of resilience. As you reflect on this incredible symbol of light overcoming darkness, we want to leave you with a thought. How does this eternal flame inspire your own unfinished work? How can you carry forward that spark of hope in your own life today? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating piece of history with us.